Good evening, and thank you for joining us online for the Wright-Patt Credit Union's 2021 annual meeting. We will begin momentarily. As we prepare, I want to share a few housekeeping notes for your convenience. At the end of the formal meeting, Doug and Joe will spend some time answering questions. You can send us your questions using the chat function on your digital meeting platform. Simply enter your question into the form field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and hit send. Please note our team may edit your questions for clarity before sharing them live. Any questions that we receive after the meeting, we will be sure to follow up via email. Also this year, we will be having a recording of the full meeting made available at wpcu.coop/annual-meeting. Now here's our board chair, Joe Linsemeyer.
I'm Joe Linsenmeyer, Chairman of the Board of Directors. This meeting will please come to order. Once again, in the interest of keeping members and partners safe, this year's meeting is being hosted live online and over the phone. It will also be available as a video recording online after the fact. Our Code of Regulations requires that 0.5% of our total voting membership must be present in person or by writing to constitute a legal annual business meeting. More than 9,000 valid ballots from members were received from this year's meeting, and accordingly, the quorum requirement has been met. I therefore declare this a legal meeting. To start things off, I would like to introduce our Board of Directors. Michael McGrath, Major, United States Air Force retired, Vice Chair. Leah Hansman, Secretary. Joseph Mucci, Treasurer. Adam Sheets, Assistant Secretary. Dr. Robert Sweeney, Assistant Treasurer. Carol Clark, Director. Dr. Charles Schau, Jr., Director. Bonnie Smith, Director. Edward Blummel, Director Emeritus. Howard Marks, Jr., Director Emeritus. Dr. Larry Smith, Colonel, United States Air Force retired, Director Emeritus. Robert Weiner, Colonel, United States Air Force retired, Director Emeritus. Rachel Goodspeed, Associate Development Member. Nick Ensley, Associate Development Member. Thaddeus Cates, Colonel, United States Air Force retired, Committee Member. Burhan Kawasa, Committee Member. We will now recognize our senior management team. Doug Fecker, President and Chief Executive Officer. Tim Islansky, Chief Strategy Officer. Roseanne Schutzman, Chief Operating Officer. Daniel Smith, Chief Financial Officer. Eric Booger, Chief Lending Officer. Amy Riley, Chief Administrative Officer. Molly Lampe, Chief Compliance Officer and General Counsel. Todd Elliott, Market President, Columbus. Jennifer Ogden, Vice President of Internal Audit. Kim Riley, Vice President of Service Delivery. Scott Everett, Vice President of Member Business Services and New Ventures. Chris Johnson, Vice President of Enterprise Risk Management. Tracy Sarzi-Fors, Vice President of Marketing and Business Development. Stephanie Mason, Vice President of Compliance and BSA. Rambir Singh, Vice President of Information Technology, and Tanya Kuhn, President, MyCU Mortgage, LLC. Leah Hansman, Board Secretary, assisted by Linda Hart, Recording Secretary, will be responsible for recording the minutes of this meeting. In addition, we have Molly Lampe, Chief Compliance Officer and General Counsel, online this evening. Ms. Lampe is serving as parliamentarian. Representing our auditing firm, BKD, Certified Public Accountant, is Kyle Fessler. Thanks to all of our special guests for attending this virtual meeting and for your support and interest in Wright-Patt Credit Union. We will be providing our annual report and meeting minutes digitally. You will find links to these on the Wright-Patt Credit Union site at wpcu.coop www.wright-patt.com/annual-meeting. If you'd like, you can refer to your annual business meeting notice at this time. Let the record show that the minutes of the 2020 annual business meeting as included in the annual business meeting notice were approved by mail ballot. This year, to better take advantage of our digital platform and use it to share Wright-Patt Credit Union's 2020 story, both Wright-Patt Credit Union's President Doug Feckers and my reports to the community have been pre-recorded. I'd like to share these reports with you now, in addition to stories from our members and partner employees that really underscore how the credit union stepped up to serve our members during one of the most difficult times in our nation's history due to COVID-19. As chairman of the board of directors, it is my responsibility to keep our members informed as to how things are going with the credit union. Before I do that, I want to thank everyone once again for attending this virtual presentation. These have been times like no other, and while it finally feels like we're coming out the other side of this pandemic, the health and safety of our members, partners, and the community at large remains our largest priority. We're all looking forward to the time when we can come together again without care or concern. To take best advantage of our digital forum this year, we've made a few changes to the annual meeting format with the intent of bringing 2020 to life for you, both the challenges of the year and all that we were able to accomplish despite the difficulties of trying to serve our members during this escalating global pandemic. We'll share the story of dedicated Wright-Patt Credit Union employees and the members they were able to help during these challenging times. But first, to remind us of Wright-Patt Credit Union's basic mission and its humble beginnings over 90 years ago, I'd like to begin with a video that was created to do just that.
It all started with a shoebox and a servant heart to help others. In the early 1930s, when a worker at Wright Field fell ill and his family struggled to make ends meet, his co-workers chipped in 25 cents each week to lend a helping hand. Recognizing a great idea, the workers continued to donate a quarter from each paycheck to create a fund for others who one day might also need help. It was called the Sunshine Fund. That small shoebox of money would evolve to what we now know as Wright-Patt Credit Union. Today, Wright-Patt Credit Union remains committed to those same values and ideals. People helping people. Through the tough times, we help our members weather financial storms by teaching them how to be more financially resilient. And through the good times, we help them achieve financial flexibility and freedom so they can live the life they want to live. Today's Wright-Patt Credit Union serves more than military members. As a community-based credit union, we welcome anyone who lives, works, attends school, or worships in most areas of Southwest and Central Ohio. We support the communities, the charities, and the many important causes of the people we are proud to serve. And we give our members so much more than great rates and low to no fees. We equip them with the education, tools, and resources needed to live their life to the fullest. From a small shoebox to one of the most respected credit unions in our country, times have changed, but our purpose never will.
It was true then, it's true now. Wright-Patt Credit Union is all about people helping people, through good times and bad. The COVID-19 crisis only helped to underscore that even further. In response to hardship for our members created by the pandemic, Wright-Patt Credit Union moved quickly and decisively to create emergency relief programs and implement other operational changes to help our members through increasingly difficult times, such as temporary unemployment loans, the reduction or waiver of fees, additional skip-a-pay option on loans. Doug will share more specific examples during his update. All totaled, in 2020, Wright-Patt Credit Union loaned more than $2.6 billion to help our members navigate life and weather these challenging times. We helped more than 5,500 members with a mortgage, a new record for Wright-Patt Credit Union. This included refinancing to make loans more affordable so our members could keep more money in their pockets during this pandemic. Through our first-time homebuyers program, we helped over 1,000 members and their families make the dream of home ownership a reality. We processed nearly $68 million in payroll protection payment loans to help local small businesses keep going during this time. We also introduced Wheels for Work, a new program for members who may not otherwise qualify for credit. In 2020, Wright-Patt Credit Union loaned over $1.9 million to help provide transportation for people attempting to secure and keep gainful employment. More than just a place to get a loan, Wright-Patt Credit Union is committed to the overall financial wellness of our members, no matter what their circumstances or where they are in their financial journey. Andy Sparks, a financial coach from our Xenia Member Center, offers us a tremendous example of this unwavering commitment.
February of last year, I was in our Green Hills Member Center, and a young man came in and we got to talking, and he wanted to do a 24-month personal loan, pretty big amount, to take care of some medical debt and some collection stuff. He's just trying to get himself situated to be able to buy a house. That was the goal. We wanted to get a house. Credit was kind of rough. With underwriting, we were able to come up with a plan. We got him a small loan on a really short term and said, hey, let's take care of this one, and then we'll revisit. I checked back with him about 6 months later. He had already paid the other loan off. Immediate impact, his credit jumped like 40 or 50 points. So we did another loan, a little bit larger, took care of some more stuff. Again, paid that one off. Emailed me and said, hey, I'm about to pay that loan off. That's awesome. How's your car? What's going on with your car? He said, man, that rate's really high. We were actually able to take his car loan rate from 25 down to 10 and saved him like $7,000 over his loan life. And he actually cut a year off his loan and his payment went down. So he was over the moon. Nobody talked to me about that when I was young. So I take extra time with every young person that I have to make sure they understand that if they have credit questions, let me know. He told me on the phone one day that nobody ever really took time to explain these things to me. This has been a problem that I've had for a while, and I've kind of asked for help and I could never get it. And he said, I followed everything you said. I did right down the line, and I can kind of see that homeownership dream there. We want to be helpful and we want to make positive impact. I'll tell anybody who'll listen that Wright-Patt feels different.
As Andy's story illustrates, helping our members achieve financial flexibility and freedom has always been part of Wright-Patt Credit Union's mission, not only through lending and deposit services, but through guidance and learning opportunities. In 2020, we had to quickly shift our financial learning efforts to a virtual environment. However, we were able to continue to engage members during this unprecedented time. Even with the shift to remote work, we were still able to help more than 130,000 members save better, borrow smarter through webinars, videos, and live learning events. Additionally, through our partnership with Wright-Patt, a leading national nonprofit focused on financial wellness for everyone, we helped over 3,600 members get a better handle on their finances and pay off more than $2.1 million in debt. Our continued partnership with community organizations such as Greater Dayton Premier Management, Girls and Boy Scouts of America, Montgomery County Public Health, and Dayton Children's Hospital allowed us to extend our reach and help even more people, members and non-members alike, work towards their goals of home ownership, financial flexibility, and debt freedom. We are particularly proud of our work with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dayton to create a critical mentoring program for the young people in our community who need it most. This included providing financial assistance to offset pandemic-related funding cuts. Advancing and building strength in the communities we serve is central to our mission as well. One way we give back is through the Wright-Patt Credit Union Sunshine Community Fund, which has generated more than $2 million over the last 8 years for worthwhile organizations like the Alzheimer's Association Military Task Force, Junior Achievement, the March of Dimes, Habitat for Humanity, and so many more. Even in the middle of a pandemic, our business sponsors and employees stayed committed to supporting the fund. Despite the cancellation of our largest fundraising event, our annual golf outing, the Sunshine Community Fund secured $74,000 from our golf sponsors. In fact, more than $260,000 was raised. Much of that went to support our 2019-2020 Sunshine Community Champions, Dayton Children's Hospital, and Rebuilding Together Dayton, with $100,000 being held in reserve to assist other deserving organizations or with additional relief efforts as needed. Despite the unprecedented year that 2020 was, Wright-Patt Credit Union's strength, resilience, and resolve cannot be denied. Our continued growth in the face of the pandemic bears this out. Membership in our credit union grew more than 5% in 2020, finishing at over 421,000 members by year-end. Total assets grew by $1.2 billion, finishing with $6.25 billion, a 23% increase. Wright-Patt Credit Union remains financially secure and well capitalized with net worth of 10.52%, which is well above the required 7% for capitalization. This means greater value and returns for our members. During these difficult times, we also opened a new state-of-the-art member center in Englewood and relocated our Lane Avenue location in Columbus to better serve our members in those communities. But perhaps one of the most encouraging indicators of our enduring strength came in the form of the $8.2 million special patronage dividend that we were able to pay out to you, our members, at the end of the year. This despite waiving many routine fees during the year and the increased expense of operating largely remotely for most of the year. This patronage dividend is based on excess earnings and is not guaranteed every year. We believe that after paying operating expenses and ensuring robust reserves, any earnings left over should be returned to the membership. The fact that we were able to pay out a special patronage dividend, second only to last year's record-breaking amount, in a time of such uncertainty, is testimony to the strong financial health of your credit union. We are pleased to be in the position of being able to put more money in members' pockets with this special dividend. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I'd like to thank you all for membership and commitment to the credit union. In good times and bad, know that we were equally as committed to you. Before I go to Doug, I'd like to end my update by sharing another example that demonstrates this commitment and how Wright-Patt Credit Union puts people first.
Back in December of 2020, my husband and I needed a new vehicle, so of course we knew where we were going to go. We did all the necessary steps. We applied online, and within 2 minutes, we got back that congratulations, you're approved for a car loan. So the next day, a young lady called us. Her name was Kayla Kiger.
I definitely reached out to let them know the process of how everything was going to go and wanted to make them comfortable with everything.
It left us with no questions to ask. This is what you need to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. I remember emailing her, and within minutes, I was getting a response. It was no 2 days later or no 4 hours later. Her response was always prompt.
I was there for them throughout the whole entire process. We scheduled times to talk on the phone. I made sure that I got the values for all the vehicles that they needed.
And so finally we get down to the sale. Honestly, before I know it, the whole transaction was over. I remember the last time I bought a car, and that experience took well over 5 to 6 hours. This experience with her, because all of that was in place, and because of Wright-Patt working even with the car dealership, having that relationship on that end, it was painless. So we walked away 2 weeks later after I met her with the car I wanted, and it was a pain-free experience.
I try to make each and every member that I'm working with feel like they are my main focus and they are valued here at the credit union. I mean, they make our credit union go around, so they are part of our stakeholder model. So we want to make sure that they're feeling valued as a member and just as a person in general.
She went over and above and beyond. I've not seen that kind of service in a very, 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 very long time. So she made an experience for me and my family one we'll never, ever forget, ever forget.
I want to, help them borrow smarter, help them meet their financial needs and meet their financial goals. So it doesn't feel like it's a lot of pressure to me. It makes me feel like I'm making a difference to the credit union and to our members.
Wright-Patt has taken care of me and my family and our needs. That is 100% correct.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks, everybody, for being with us tonight. When we met during last year's annual meeting, we were all just a few months into a health crisis, the likes of which most of us have never seen before. Now, hopefully, with the miracle of modern vaccines and everyone working to keep each other safe, we appear to be on our way out of it. And as the light at the end of the tunnel starts to glow a little brighter, we want to continue being smart and safe. That's why we chose to hold our annual meeting virtually again this year. I know that we're all looking forward to when we can see each other in person again, and I truly hope this is the last time we need to hold our annual meeting over a computer. I'd like to start tonight by focusing on Wright-Patt Credit Union's response to the coronavirus this last year. Because of its profound impact on every aspect of our community, COVID will forever be the lens through which we remember 2020. Here at your credit union, the pandemic impacted everything we did last year and how we did it, and it has taught us lessons that we'll use in future years. In many ways, our COVID story isn't that different from most other companies. We worked quickly to retool our teams and technologies while continuing to serve the needs of our members. We wore our masks and followed social distancing and sanitization protocols to keep our members and employees as safe as we could. But for us, there was more. Since we hold our members' money and are a source for emergency cash during difficult times, we considered the credit union to be one of the most essential of essential businesses. Based on our values and beliefs, we understood that we were uniquely obligated to help people facing the hardships of these crazy, crazy times. Whether we help a member get by for a few weeks when they're quarantined and unable to work, or processing a payroll protection loan for a local business so it can continue paying its employees, responding to a crisis like this is exactly what Wright-Patt Credit Union was built to do. As you know, our credit union has never defined success by profits. We define it by the number of people we're able to help. Not since our founding in 1932, when the very first Wright-Patt members operated the credit union out of a shoebox, has this mission of ours been more clear. You know, we've heard hundreds of stories from members we helped last year. Stories like this one from Darcy Eddington of Springfield. Let's let Darcy share her story.
My two sons and I had just recently moved. It was actually on a Wednesday when we had moved. And Friday, I got really sick and got tested, and I ended up with having COVID, and my younger son ended up with COVID also. Wednesday, we moved. By Friday night, I had a fever and I was sick all night, and then I was trying to stay away from the kids. So all day Saturday, they were just checking on me, and I was so sick I couldn't even think about it at that point. But then as the week progressed and I was quarantined, my older son was going to be quarantined, and it was just, everything was just piling on me all at once, you know. Spend a lot of money to move, and then you're sick and you have to sit in a car in a line for hours trying to get COVID tested. And obviously I couldn't go to work, and I was stressing out because I just paid all this money to move, and you know, that always takes a lot of money. And so I had put in to get a COVID loan through Wright-Patt just to see if it would even happen, you know. And Dan called me and he said, you know, he asked me a few questions, and he said, you're not really like eligible for that one, but let me see what I can do and I'll call you back. And this was on a Saturday. So they were closing at 1, and he said, I'll try to get back with you before the end of the day. And I was like, okay. 20 minutes later, he called me, and he was like, hey, Darcy, it's Dan. And I was like, oh, hey. I just figured that was another quick no. 20 minutes later, surely he didn't get me the loan. He was like, good news, I got you the personal loan. And he got it written up and was able to help me out in a short amount of time too, to make sure that the money was in there before 1 o'clock. I didn't have to wait till Monday, the money was already in my account, and I was able to, do the things that I needed to do for the kids. I just really couldn't believe it. It was great. It really saved me that month because I didn't even know where we were going to get money for food for the next week because I wasn't getting paid at work. I was always told growing up that everything will turn out the way it's supposed to. And that day I really truly believed that. That really made me believe because there was no other way I was going to get money but that. And it really came through at the right time, and that's the best part. Dan really saved us that month.
Thanks, Darcy. This is just one story of many. And just like we were able to help Darcy, we worked as best we could to help all our members get through the disruption and uncertainty of the pandemic last year. I remember when the pandemic began and how fast we had to move. Nobody knew in the beginning how bad it could be, but what we did know is that when times get tough, what people really need is cash to help them get through whatever the crisis throws at them. And so we moved quickly to launch the most comprehensive relief program in our history and make cash available for members as quickly as we could. We increased credit card limits so members could get cash without waiting in line. We made millions of dollars in emergency loans, lowered interest rates, and extended loan payment dates for members who became unemployed because of COVID-19. We allowed members to skip loan payments so they could use the money to take care of their families as hundreds of businesses were shut down. We suspended, lowered, or eliminated fees again to help members who were running low on cash. We put a hold on foreclosures and repossessions to remove the burden of uncertainty during a national emergency. And as government stimulus money was approved, we released the cash into members' accounts days before the effective date of the funds to give folks even faster access to cash. We also processed about 1,000 payroll protection loans for member-owned businesses, helping to save literally thousands of local jobs. In fact, your credit union was Ohio's largest credit union payroll protection loan lender, processing almost 25% of all credit union loans made in the state. To understand what those loans meant to local businesses, here's Steve Rubenstein, Executive Director of Crayons to Classrooms, a local nonprofit.
So we are a teacher-free store, and we provide educational and learning materials to teachers of students in need. There's a lot of students going to school without the things they need. March 17th of 2020, we closed for the first time ever. And we remained closed until we opened up again in July of last year. It was a very kind of scary time. We ended up the first quarter down about 31% in revenue. So there was a lot of questions as to, would this affect our sustainability? Followed the news pretty closely and started hearing about the payroll protection program. I started conversations with our banking relationship at that time. I spent the whole month of April last year working through this program, and we missed the first cut. And then we started hearing about a round 2. I had spent all this time, energy, and stress, and I wasn't hearing anything. People were getting, really great response with, community banks and credit unions. We have a person on our board of directors from Wright-Patt Credit Union, Tracy Fors. She put me in touch with Scott Everett, and we had a conversation. I believe it was the end of that week, and I sent Scott some documents that I had used for our other application. He got back with me on Monday and said, if you want to make a switch, you're good to go. We'll take your application. So I had to pause for about a day just to check in with, my team, just to make sure that they were comfortable with that. And then Wednesday morning I said, Scott, let's go. And by that Friday, we had been approved. It's been smooth as silk since then. So we were able to keep our staff. I credit Wright-Patt Credit Union for having their ducks in a row and being able to handle this, very quickly. And I submitted my application for forgiveness to the SBA October 9th. It was a week later that I got a response back from the SBA that our loan had been 100% forgiven. And then fast forward, a couple of months, and then we start the process all over again. Just like that, we got the second round, same amount of time. So we're in the process now of working through that, PPP 2.0 right now. So I think the bigger picture is just we're here today carrying out our mission. And I will tell you that the first round and the second round of the PPP loans is a big factor in allowing us to continue to do what we do. I knew at the beginning that I was probably going to be changing my banking relationship. We ultimately did. We switched and moved to Wright-Patt, and we're very happy that we did. I mean, the service is superior.
As I look back at our COVID plan, I recall that every decision we made was based on balancing the health and safety of our members and employees while making sure members always had access to money to help them through the pandemic. It wasn't easy. Now I realize that some of the decisions we made were very difficult, and none was harder than the decision to close our lobbies or limiting in-person services in our member centers. No one knows better than I do that this created long drive-through lines and was a major inconvenience for members. And I'm actually sorry it came to that, but we made the best decision we could with the information we had while trying to keep all our locations open at some level of service, even as dozens of our employees were out with the virus or on quarantine. And I appreciate members' understanding as we tried to keep our employees safe. I'm certainly glad we are finally past all of that now. And here's what's most exciting for me. It's that now we get to look to the future. As the tide of the pandemic recedes and mass vaccinations begin to take hold, Wright-Patt Credit Union is just as vital and healthy as ever, and not far off our record-breaking performance before the pandemic. We remain committed to our vision of helping members achieve financial flexibility and freedom so they can live the lives they want to live. Looking forward, we continue finding ways to increase our impact throughout the state of Ohio. We're opening new locations in Piqua and Gahanna, and we have more locations on the drawing table. We're developing important new solutions to help members, and we've learned from what the pandemic has taught us. For instance, we're planning on an online emergency loan product that members can use when facing a challenge that they can get around the clock, all from the home computer. We're also expanding our diversity and inclusion plans to make sure that we serve members of all backgrounds and perspectives. Earlier this year, we named Ivy Glover as our new Director of Social Impact, and we're excited to see how Ivy will help ensure Wright-Patt Credit Union is available to everyone in our incredibly diverse membership. As I finish my remarks, I'd like to mention some of the awards and recognitions Wright-Patt Credit Union received last year. Go Banking Rates recognized Wright-Patt as a top 10 credit union in the country. The Financial Health Network named us a national financial health leader. Lending Tree named Wright-Patt Credit Union one of the country's top 200 healthiest financial institutions. Digital Defense awarded us with a highly coveted award for network security, and the Dayton Business Journal recognized us as one of Dayton's 50 fastest growing companies and one of the best places to work in Dayton. Of course, we don't do any of this for awards, but they are a good indication that we're on the right track with the things we're trying to do for members and our employees. They are what happens when you bring smart, talented, and dedicated people together, united in purpose and eager to help somebody else. In the end, none of what we were able to accomplish this past year would have been possible without the diligence and can-do attitude of our Wright-Patt Credit Union team. In closing, I'd like to thank them all for their flexibility, their hard work, and dedicated service to our members during the most challenging of times. Our employees are not only essential, but in my mind, they're heroes, showing up every day to make sure a critically important job gets done. I'd also like to thank you all again for joining us tonight. And before I'd go, I'd like to share one more story that gets to the heart of what Wright-Patt Credit Union is all about, helping people through life.
So this member came in to apply for a loan, and he applied for a personal loan. When I pulled his credit, his credit was very low. His credit score was very low. He had some negative history on there, but he had previous loans with Wright-Patt. He had always paid us, but were sometimes slow pays. When I first talked to him, he just told me he needed the loan for bills. Didn't give me much more information than that. It did come back declined. I tried to call him. The next day, he came in to check on his loan, and I just happened to be here, so he came in the office, and I was explaining to him how it was declined. At that point in time, he broke down in my office and was crying. Told me that his wife had cancer, and she had been in a nursing home since the beginning of COVID, and he was not able to see her. He had just gotten approved finally to be able to visit with her again because things had kind of settled down. And this money was to make sure that he could keep both of their cars and all their bills going since she was in a nursing home, and he wanted to be able to tell her that everything was okay. So at that point in time, her car had actually been repossessed, and I found out at that point in time that this loan was to help get that car back. So he was crying and, telling me what this was for, and how he took a vow to love her forever and wanted to make sure that he could take care of her. And he felt like he'd been a member with Wright-Patt for so long, and he felt like we weren't taking care of him, and he walked out of my office. I went back to the loan and I was like, no, this is Wright-Patt. This is what we are about. We are about helping people. So I put all of my notes in about his wife, about what the situation was, and just reiterated that yes, he has had some slow pays with us, but he's always paid us off, and this is about helping him. And the underwriter approved it immediately after she read the note. And when I called him, he came right back in. He was back here within 15 minutes. And as I was doing all of his loan documents and signing and talking to him, he was emotional the whole time. And when he left my office, he said, "Darlin, I don't tell people I love them unless I mean it. And darlin, I love you." So then he left my office and I cried again.
Welcome back to the live portion of our meeting, and thank you to our partners and members for sharing their stories with us. In continuing with the annual meeting, the minutes show that there was no unfinished business to address from last year's meeting. We will now move on to new business and the report of elections. The following individuals received a majority of 4 votes and were elected to serve a 3-year term on the Wright-Patt Credit Union Board of Directors: Dr. Charles Schau Jr., Joseph Mucci, and Joe Linsenmeyer. As there is no other new business to address, I would like to take a moment to thank everyone involved in making the annual election and annual business meeting a success. We appreciate the time and effort that goes into meeting preparations. Thank you. With all of the official business of the annual meeting concluded, the meeting is adjourned. However, we will be taking questions from attendees before we go. Linda, do you have any questions for Doug and I?
Thanks, Joe. We do have a few questions. And the first question that we do have is, could you speak more to the diversity and inclusion initiatives that are being implemented?
That's a really good question. I'm glad it was asked tonight, because with all the events in our country over the last year and a lot of the things going on, we realized that, frankly, having a positive social impact is everybody's job, and that we need to do things very purposefully and intentionally to try to make the communities in which our members live and work and raise their families the kind of place that we would all want to live in and work in and raise our families in. And so as we took a step back and looked at it, we realized how important this was. And our first decision was, as you saw on the tape, to appoint a director of social impact to help us put a focus on those kinds of things and take a look at the places where Wright-Patt Credit Union can really make an impact and do the most good, because we want the communities that we all live in to work for everybody, regardless of background, regardless of perspective, regardless of where you come from or who you might have been and who you are today. And so the things that we're planning on doing is we're putting the finishing touches on our social impact plans. trying to take a look at where we can do those types of things, looking internally at the credit union, at our own workforce, making sure that everybody who works here, we have 1,100 employees here at the credit union, that they all have opportunity, they all have an ability to move up, that we're working for all of our employees. Same thing out in the community. How do we make sure that the power that is Wright-Patt Credit Union is spread throughout the communities no matter what, so that everybody can enjoy in the benefits that a credit union like us can bring? I can't speak to a lot of the most specific plans because we are just putting the final touches on our plan, working with Ivy and a lot of others at the credit union actually. But we just think it's very, very important that we take the resources that we have, and as I said before, that we become purposeful and intentional and mindful of the difference that we can make for the people in the communities that we serve. I think that's kind of the beauty of being a not-for-profit credit union, is it allows us to think about that, and we realize we have to be more purposeful about it. So I expect big things, frankly, and I think these next 6, 9, 12 months you'll really see how we're able to do the kinds of things more purposely than maybe we took for granted before. So I'm really glad that that question was asked, because that's a big deal here at the credit union. So thank you.
The next question: what are Wright-Patt Credit Union's plans for future locations?
Joe, if you don't mind, I'll take that one also. So when we think about the credit union and how it's grown, we don't try to grow for growth's sake. What we try to grow instead is we try to grow in impact in the numbers of people in our communities that we're able to help. And how we deliver services to those people is a mix of digital services, but also our physical branches, we call them member centers. So we've put up a couple in the last year. We have 2 about to open, one up in Piqua, opening in 2 or 3 weeks, and shortly thereafter one in the Hannah area outside of Columbus. And when I talked in the video about having plans on the drawing table, where we look first is where do our members live and where do they work, and are there areas where we have members that aren't really convenient to some of our existing locations. We also look at the financial need in the areas around Dayton and Cincinnati and Columbus to try to figure out where's the best place where we can invest the members' money to serve the most possible members. So while I can't tonight tell you exactly where the next locations are going to go, I can tell you there will be more locations. They will kind of follow the membership and follow the need and follow the population trends in the state of Ohio, and we're really excited to be able to do that. I think you'll see more investment in Columbus, you'll see more investment in Dayton, you'll see more investment in the other areas where our members are going about their daily lives, and we just want to be able to do the best we can for them. So our expansion plans are important to us, and I do think you'll see more happening. I'm just not ready to talk about specific locations yet because, frankly, we haven't made final decisions on them.
Okay, our next question. Since digital technology is becoming more of the norm since COVID-19, do you see a big change in the future on how you provide best-in-class service?
Wow, like it hasn't changed much already, right? I mean, the way we've delivered services has changed tremendously over the years. Who would have thought even just a few years ago that we would take deposits from members by them taking pictures of the check with their cell phone and kind of emailing us the picture of the check, and that's good enough for a deposit. The fact of the matter is the way financial institutions deliver financial services has changed very rapidly in the past, and there will be no change in the pace of change in the future. And we think it's going to take a balance of digital solutions plus member center locations so that we can serve members in the way that they most want to be served. We created here in 2021 a digital transformation team. It's led by a really bright young lady, Remy Cruz, and her team. We've got a couple people taking a look at how can we best take the services that we deliver them digitally to members so that members can gain access to their accounts faster, more securely, easier than ever before. So the direct answer to the question, yes, it's going to change. It will probably never stop changing. The challenge that we have is how do we read the needs of the members and be able to develop all the service delivery systems that they most want from their credit union. And I think we're doing actually a pretty good job with that. So it's going to keep changing, and we need to keep changing right along with it.
Okay, our next question. Are there any plans to join the Zelle network?
That's a really good question also. They're all good questions, aren't they? The answer is we are currently at the very end of studying a new P2P, that stands for people-to-people payment system. That's what Zelle is. It probably wouldn't be Zelle, but it could be. We're just not ready to announce it yet, but we do think that it's very important that we offer a state-of-the-art, fast way for members to move money between people to people, as quickly as we possibly can. We know the solution that we have now isn't what you'd call state-of-the-art. We have a team that's been working on it for quite a long while, and we're just getting ready to make the recommendation and implement a new solution. Again, I just can't tell you which one it is yet because we haven't put the ink on the dotted line yet, but there are plans to improve our P2P capabilities, and I think members will really like what we have coming out in that regard.
Okay, the next question. How long will the following restrictions stay in effect at your location? Mandatory wearing of mask, capacity restrictions, and the need to make an appointment to see someone.
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? With the pandemic on the wane, yet state mandates still in place, guidance from the CDC and other public health agencies. I guess the best answer to that is we hope to not continue those kinds of restrictions one day longer than necessary. Look, nobody likes them. We don't like them. We don't like the fact that we have a mandate that we have to live under, but we also have to keep our employees and the members that visit us safe. During the height of the pandemic, frankly, it was touch and go. We had so many employees off either with the virus or on quarantine to keep them safe from the virus that it started to become a question of would we have to start to close locations, not because of the virus, but because would we have enough staff to work in them? And so the reason that we implemented a lot of the restrictions in the first place was really an effort to keep every location we have open, and we could only do that if we had staff to work there, and we had to keep the staff safe. So I hope we can withdraw those restrictions just as soon as we can. We do rely on the state mandate. We feel like we have no choice but to abide by that. I hope we can take those off just as soon as we possibly can. It seems to be the news is good in that regard. I'm hopefully just another few weeks, months, I don't know, but when we can, we will. That's our commitment. We don't want to have those in place any longer than we have to.
Thank you, Doug. This question is for Joe. How do you become a member of the board of directors, and how do you determine who qualifies?
Well, that's a good question. To get on the board of directors, we have a process. To start off with, a person would contact the credit union and ask for an application to get into what's called an associate program. And so what we did decades ago was create an associate program. As this credit union has gotten very large and very complex, there's a lot to know, a lot to learn. To be on the board of directors, you need a certain level of experience, not just in the world, but with how the credit union works and our philosophies and all those things. And so the associate program allows a person to sit with the board, be on committees, do everything except vote, so that they learn what's going on and they become ready to join the board. And then when there is an opening on the board, what happens is typically the governance committee looks at the associates and selects however many we need to fill the open positions, or at least puts them up for election in those positions. And that way, the person who was the associate has an opportunity while they're associate to see if this is really what they want to do. Sometimes we find that people can't make the time commitments. They had unrealistic expectations of what was involved, or they didn't really understand it, or they just decide this is not the place where they can best serve and they move on to something else. Sometimes the board says, well, that person is just not ready to become a board member at this time. So it's really a good process for both the potential board member and the board to get to know people. So if somebody is interested in being on the board, I would recommend that they contact the credit union and ask about the associate program.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Doug. That appears to be all the questions that we have for this evening. I'd like to remind everybody that the recording of this year's meeting will be made available at wpcu.coop/annual-meeting. I want to thank everyone once again for joining us for our 2021 annual business meeting, and I hope you all have a great evening.